The popularity of true crime has proliferated as of late, with networks and streaming services poring over sensational headlines of the past to revive bewildering and enigmatic crimes, equal parts enthralling and horrifying. Rife with astonishing revelations, conspiracies, betrayals, courtroom dramas, and misdeeds of all sorts, these series prove uber addictive. There is an inevitable sense of fret-tinged awe when reality outdoes any plausible work of fiction. And here are 10 of the finest examples of those bewitching, lurid sagas. Number 10, Wormwood. With a backdrop of unethical government experimentation, cover-ups, and Cold War paranoia, comes the story of Frank Olson, a CIA biochemist who suffered apprehensions about his work in biological warfare and made his loss of faith known. Covertly drugged with LSD by his CIA supervisor, Frank Olson has a bad reaction and is not fully recovered 9 days later when he plunges onto the sidewalk from the window of a New York City hotel. Wormwood delves into Frank Olson's mysterious death and the painstaking decades-long pursuit of the truth that his son Eric undertakes, which comes to consume his entire life.
What were you told at the time of your father's death?
I was told that your father has had an accident. But that was the cover story told by the CIA.
Number 9, The Devil You Know. This 5-part series from Vice is billed as The Satanist from the Suburbs, which is a succinct but apt description of the series' main focus, Pazuzu Algarad. Born John Lawson, Pazuzu eventually turned himself into the embodiment of the term antisocial. He became a local legend for his darkly eccentric behavior, including rabid drug use, animal sacrifice, filing his teeth down into fangs, bathing only once a year, and living in squalor. However, what propelled him into the news was a series of murders he orchestrated, along with claims of possible cannibalism.
For 5 years, below the ground in Clemens, North Carolina, were tremors in waiting. Rumors of what lay there sent rumblings through the community. But on October 5th, 2014, when the earth behind this Nob Hill drive home was moved,
watch the step here.
What was found exploded across the country.
It was inevitable that Pazuzu would attract wayward kids to his demonic party house, like moths to hellfire. He surrounded himself with a band of misfits and acolytes, who fell under his sinisterly libertine influence and fulfilled his odious commands. This series broaches the concept of social responsibility and how it relates to the listless ennui suffered by young people in economically depressed towns. Above all, the tale of Pazuzu is a meditation on the power you can garner by making yourself something people fear.
People knew of a guy, John Lawson, who named himself Pazuzu. He became a quote-unquote Satanist.
He had followers, the misfits, the outcasts.
He tried to have orgies and manipulate people into having sex.
Number 8, The Preppy Murder. In the heyday of tabloid journalism came the case that couldn't have been designed better for headline fodder. The body of a young woman named Jennifer Levin is discovered in Central Park by a cyclist in the early morning hours. The killer soon reveals himself as her friend Robert Chambers, a hulking, chiseled, 6'4" private school prep. He admits to the killing, but puts forth a flabbergasting defense. The shared social scene of both victim and perpetrator was one of privilege, indulgence, excess, and little parental guidance, which helped propel this story to national attention. The trial, which was punctuated by a controversial verdict, featured unabashed victim shaming by the defense, aided and abetted by newspapers and magazines, and an intrusion by the Catholic Church, and the discovery that the all-American veneer of Robert Chambers is sheathing a very frightening and callous character.
It was the glorious 80s.
We grew up in this bubble of rich Upper East Side preppy kids.
We had an enormous amount of freedom.
And then your best friend was killed?
A suspect is under arrest in the murder of a young woman whose body was found in Central Park, and police say he was not a stranger.
Number 7, Murder in the Bayou. This Showtime series, based on the book of the same name by Ethan Brown, deals with the 8 unsolved murders of women in Jefferson Davis Parish, Louisiana, between 2005 and 2009. The crimes came to be known as the Jeff Davis 8 case. All the victims were acquainted through the town's drug scene, which centered around a dubious motel called the Boudoir Inn. Missteps and misconduct, along with mishandled and missing evidence, caused many to scrutinize the sheriff's office. Inappropriate relationships between officers and victims, coupled with claims of illegal dealings, open the possibility of not just malfeasance, but of potential participation in the crimes by local law enforcement themselves. Ethan Brown attempts to untangle the small town weave of interconnected characters while uncovering multiple suspects and potential theories as the families struggle to keep the names and memories of the victims in public consciousness.
The girls, they didn't deserve what the hell they got.
There were 8 dead women, no justice for any of those women.
It's like they never existed. What the f is really going on in this town?
Number 6, Murder Mountain. This 6-part Netflix series dives into Alder Point, California, known colloquially as Murder Mountain, due to the high number of murdered and missing people in the area. The region's soil, climate, and secluded terrain make it a prime cannabis growing location, which is a boon and a curse. Both legal and illegal farms populate the landscape, and people come from all over with hopes of money promised in the lucrative industry. Black market deals, along with the ethos of an outlaw culture, make it a dangerous environment. So here, the mountain and its surroundings are explored, using the story of a missing Southern California man named Garrett Rodriguez, who traveled to Alder Point, hoping for his share of fortune in Boomtown. Number 5, the case against Adnan Syed. Originally made famous by the podcast Serial, this HBO series deals with the trial and conviction of Adnan Syed for the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Hae Min Lee. Both attended Woodlawn High School in Baltimore County at the time of the crime, and it was where Hae Min Lee was last seen alive. 3 days after Baltimore City Police located her body, they received an anonymous tip suggesting they should look into Adnan Syed. Questions regarding the validity of the testimony provided by his friend Jay Wilds, which helped garner a guilty verdict, have been raised. Furthermore, other exculpating evidence was brought forth in an effort to get Syed released, including a witness who placed Adnan in the school library at the time of the murder.
I know there are things that don't look good for me.
I'm telling you, that's what happened.
How could anybody think that he's being straight about this?
That doesn't make him a killer. Makes him an unusual person.
This is perhaps the critical piece to this case.
They were going to follow that wherever it took them.
This is a piece of evidence that nobody even realized existed.
I want you to look into my eyes and tell me of your innocence.
Number 4, Killer Ratings. In Killer Ratings, Brazilian TV presenter Wallace Souza sets himself up as a champion of the people by highlighting crimes and actively calling out wanted criminals on his television show, Canal Livre. Wallace becomes a folk hero in the Amazonas state and its capital of Manaus after he pledges to fight the local scourge of drugs and homicide through his news program. His camera crew films the aftermaths of murders, provides information about the cases, and even performs stings. Souza's show soon becomes one of the most popular, and he uses it to launch a successful political career. At this juncture, the story takes a hard turn that is difficult to fathom. A criminal under arrest claims that Wallace Souza had in fact orchestrated and ordered the killings he reported on to boost his own ratings. Police begin to wonder how Wallace Souza and his production team could have known so much about the murders, as this confounding saga unfurls. Number 3, Evil Genius. Evil Genius is a perplexing tale that hits all the marks for a stellar true crime series. It features unimaginable crimes, adequately gobsmacking twists, and odd characters whose lives intersect with each other in an equally peculiar fashion. The story begins with a preposterous scheme involving a bomb strapped to an unwitting pizza delivery man. The unfortunate victim is sent on a scavenger hunt and given instructions to rob a bank, after which he'd be able to dismantle the explosive if he followed all the directions. When the alleged culprits are uncovered, their debauched biographies come into focus and other gruesome crimes are discovered.
911, it's emergency. We just been robbed.
We got him out of the car and cuffed him.
I start hearing a beat. His eyes just got real wide.
Number 2, The Jinx. Robert Durst is the heir to a New York real estate empire and a man who seems to bring terrible misfortune to those around him. The aptly named Jinx follows Durst's life and the mysteries and tragedies that surround it, including the unsolved disappearance of his wife in 1982, the murder of friend Susan Berman in 2000, and the murder and dismemberment of his neighbor Morris Black in 2001. Durst is a suspect in the first 2 crimes and confessed to killing Morris Black, but was acquitted after claiming self-defense. Despite being press adverse, Durst sat down for hours of interviews conducted by writer and producer of the series, Andrew Jarecki. Robert Durst surely regrets that decision, as he comes off less than convincing when confronted with the evidence of his involvement in these crimes. Number 1. Making a murderer. A modicum of sympathy is due to Steven Avery, the main catalyst of this series. He was once convicted for a crime he did not commit, and after his release is charged with another serious crime that he might have also not perpetrated. The evidence in the second trial, which was for the murder of photographer Teresa Halbach, is damning, but the possibility of Steven having been set up causes doubts to arise. At the time of his arrest, Steven Avery had filed a $36 million lawsuit against local law enforcement after he served 18 years for sexual assault and attempted murder, which DNA evidence later proved he did not commit. Steven's nephew, a 16-year-old high schooler with below average intelligence, was also charged in the murder. After an interrogation where detectives used unethical methods to extract a confession, is Steven a hapless yet cheerful soul or a ruthless killer? The choice between the two is the driving force of this series, and hitherto has not been definitely decided.
There was no real investigation done by the Sheriff's Department.
The sheriff told the DA not to screw this case up. He wanted Avery convicted of this crime.
There isn't one iota of physical evidence in this case that connects Steven Avery to it. In fact, the sheriff was told by the police, "You have the wrong guy."
Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and clang that bell if you want more.